Daniel, let's start maybe by sharing why did you join tax as a profession?
Okay, for me, because back in those days, a typical accounting graduate would essentially consider two career choices, audit or tax. And I'd done internship in audit, which I didn't really like. And since I did pretty well in my tax module in the university, and I did like to interpret law, so I thought, yeah, since tax is a good blend of accounting and law, why not I start a career in it? And I've not looked back since. I've enjoyed the ride so far.
Traditionally, tax is never seen to be an exciting profession to be in, but you would tell me that that's not true.
Yes, to me that's obviously not true. For the initial years, I must say that it would take time to build up the fundamentals. It would take time for tax professional to basically get a good grounding in the basics and the fundamentals of tax law. So in the initial years, it's going to be a series of learning, a series of trainings, a series of keeping updated, and essentially that's the period where you tend to do a lot of more computational stuff. But as you progress in the career, a tax professional will soon realize that he or she will get a chance to be more involved in transactions and essentially being ahead of being involved in the transactions before the filing itself. So in that sense, it does create a good platform to be aware of what the business is doing, what deals are being contemplated, whether it can be structured more efficiently, what are the issues that arose, and in order to advise the client better. So you'll find that clients will appreciate this kind of advice. So definitely it's not boring for me, because in the course of my work, I work on mega projects, I work on tax structuring deals, I work on due diligence, I advise clients on how to structure their supply chain better to achieve a better tax outcome or more efficient tax outcome. And I interact with fellow professionals, I interact with the clients, their advisors as well. I try to think of what tax issues could arise for the client. And all this hopefully will result in a better tax outcome for the company. And once you realize that you've managed to save some taxes for them, I think you can feel the satisfaction in that sense.
To someone who's starting off in tax, how long should they stay in a particular role before they consider moving to another part of the tax profession?
Typically, I think you will need at least 2 to 3 years to really build up the fundamentals. Because what a typical, say, a fresh grad who comes into the tax profession, he or she would normally just have done probably a tax module in the university, and that's probably 40-hour kind of course. That's clearly not sufficient to really advise clients. So for the first 2 to 3 years, there'll be a lot of interaction with clients and with fellow professionals in trying to understand better what are those rules. And in what they learn in university is normally black and white, but when they come out to the industry or come out to work, they realize that a lot of the issues are actually grey. There's different shades of grey, and it's really the experience that you need to have in order to advise a client to say that, oh, I've come across this issue before, and this is how we resolve it. It's that kind of value add that the client really appreciate, and not just telling the client, oh, this is the law, and too bad for you. So I think for a person to really, be able to add value in the career, he or she will need to understand that for the first 2 or 3 years, it's really about getting this kind of experience, getting this kind of basic knowledge to have a foundation to then build on and go on to deliver better advice for the client.
You spent a number of years in the tax profession already. What's exciting for you personally in this space?
Well, the chance to get involved in projects that really opens your mind and projects that you really have not encountered before, and you learn something different from it. The chance to be able to help clients in their tax disputes, and to be able to basically make an impact on your bottom line. So I have cases where we successfully defended against tax audits or involved in tax settlements that results in significant refunds for the taxpayer, and they are very appreciative, and it does impact their bottom line, and they're able to keep growing their business or keep the profit margins. So in a sense, tax is really not just something that is a form-filling exercise, contrary to what some people think. It can really add value to the business, because tax is normally a big component of the business cost, and it's not really controllable to a certain extent because it depends on the rules. But if you are familiar with the rules, and you can basically take advantage of the rules that are meant to benefit the taxpayer, then it results in savings for the company or for the business. And companies really appreciate that kind of advice.
But tax is an evolving area now. Many changes over the last few years especially.
Yes.
And going forward, perhaps even going to create even more challenges for professionals in the space and also for the industry. In your view, what do you think are the main challenges for tax professionals in the next few years?
As some people would know, there's been this significant change in the tax landscape with the developed economies trying to preserve their revenue.
Base erosion
and profit shifting project, the BEPS project that is run by OECD and G20 nations. And some of the international tax rules are changing quite rapidly and quite extensively in that sense. So for any tax professionals, I think he or she must recognize that these rules have been changing and will continue to change. And it's important to keep updated of the rules to be able to advise the client or benefit the company appropriately. It's really important to be updated of these changes. And also the other trend that I see is with developments in IT, information technology, some of the tax return processes may be automated. So we tax professionals should really move away from a more form-filling or return-filling kind of role to provide more value add to clients, such as being involved at the transactional stage, being aware of what the client is planning to do or what the company is planning to do, being aware of what the tax risks involved and influence the manner of how this transaction is going to be conducted such that you get a more tax-efficient outcome.
To a person who's looking to join the tax profession, someone coming out of school, out of university, what is the one piece of advice that you will give to someone who's considering a career in this space?
I would say that tax is definitely an exciting career, and it's a professional career that stays with you for the long term, in the sense that the knowledge stays with the individual and you can only get better with experience. So it's really a lifelong profession in that sense. You won't be made redundant. In fact, you only be getting better as you progress in your career. But it's important to be, to have an open mind, to be willing to learn as much as possible, at least for the first few years. In fact, all the way. Even for me now, I'm still learning new things. I'm still involved in different kinds of projects that I've never done before. One day I could be advising on a European structure, another day I could be advising on a US structure, and those rules are just changing. So it's important for the professional to be able to have a passion for keeping him or her updated of the latest developments, because it will show up in the work product. And I can assure that once it's done that way, once you have a passion for learning, once you have a keen interest to know why, to find out why, it will be the person will have a very good career